Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy, and today I'm going to be talking about the mid-season premiere of The Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 9, A Rock in the Road. I think what the biggest problem with the whole first half of the season is that they were doing all this world building, and there was a lot of telling more than showing, I feel like. So I feel like what has really changed and what has been super good about this episode is that they did a lot more of the opposite. They did more showing and less telling. And so it didn't feel as forced, it didn't feel like forced storytelling, and I appreciated that greatly. I think that this premiere was so good, and I think that it was so great to have the entire cast there. As they mentioned in The Talking Dead, that they have so much chemistry together. And I think another one of the big problems about the first half of the season is that it was so obvious that Glenn wasn't there, and he has such a big presence in the show, and his void there really, I think, did damage to the show and to the characters and to everything about the story. And I feel like because everyone was all together, I think all their power and their energy together filming, it didn't seem so apparent that Glenn wasn't there. My only real disappointment, and it's not even really like a problem, is that there wasn't a lot of Negan, and I think he's just become such an important character at this point that I kind of miss him when he's not around. And a lot of people have mentioned that too on Twitter, is that they wanted more Negan, but I mean, we got a little sample of his voice. That was enough, I think, for now. Next episode better have more Negan. This episode had some really cool special effects with Michonne and Rick mowing down all of those walkers. That was really fucking cool. And them getting the dynamite was so good for the group. I don't know what they're gonna use it on. They have so many options. They could set up traps. They could go into the Saviors area and they can blow them all up. They could literally do anything with that dynamite. So I'm so curious to see what they're gonna do with all that dynamite. Now the big kind of twist about this episode is that we have Father Gabriel at the beginning of the episode seen taking all of the supplies and leaving town. Now we can assume from this that either one, he's reverting back to his old ways. When they found him, he had caused the death of pretty much everyone in the town by locking them up in the church. He had taken all the supplies, used them for himself. He was very selfish, but we've seen a lot of character growth in him, and maybe he's a different person now. Or maybe because, everything bad that's happening right now, he's just decided that he has to go back to his old ways because that's how he knows how to survive. Or two, the other option is that he's seeing the writing on the walls. He knows that Alexandria is not going to last for very long with them constantly giving their stuff to Negan. So maybe he's thinking, I'll take it all, I'll bring it somewhere else, and then in the middle of the night we'll all just leave and go to this other place. At the end of the episode, we see a group of survivors. We don't know if they are another group or if they are part of the Saviors. They seem to be wearing the same type of dingy clothing that the Saviors do wear when they're out on their scouting missions, like we saw when they rounded up Rick's group in the first part of the season. But they also didn't totally seem like Saviors. They didn't have the same attitude and the same presence. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with them and what happens with Father Gabriel and what his intentions were with taking all the supplies. Now moving on to the kingdom with King Ezekiel. He made a very big decision not to assist Rick and the Hilltop community. And I think what's going through his head is, there's nothing bad happening right now. We haven't had any problems. Yeah, Rick and his group are, but I have to worry about my people and their safety. And right now, things are cool, and I don't want to disrupt that. So I'm not going to get involved and risk losing more of my people or risk getting on Negan's bad side, because we're already kind of like in this weird middle ground right now where we don't know, what he's going to do next. So I'd rather not get involved in that and just keep my good standing with Negan. And I think that with Ezekiel, the only thing that's going to change his mind about assisting Rick is if Negan comes into his camp and kills his tiger or kills more of his people or does something that kind of goes beyond what their contract is already established. So I don't think that he's going to get involved at all until that point. And shout out to Morgan for being the absolute worst and continuing to be an idiot in the midst of the apocalypse, thinking that there's another way other than killing Negan, which literally makes no sense. I'm thinking what's going to happen, honestly, is that the Saviors are going to start realizing that Daryl is out there somewhere. And I think what is going to happen is that they're going to start going into all these different kingdoms and settlements and places that are out here in the world looking for Daryl, because I think Negan's just going to obsess over it. That seems like his type of personality, is that he gets attached to someone or an idea and he has to like teach them a lesson, like what he did with Rick. Like, he spent so much time breaking down Rick and he spent so much time investing in Daryl. He's not just gonna let him go. He's gonna make sure he finds him and takes care of him. And I think what's gonna happen is they're gonna get into the kingdom at some point. They're gonna find Daryl and they're gonna teach the kingdom a huge lesson, which is gonna cause King Ezekiel to finally be like, okay, now I'm gonna join you, Rick, and now I'm gonna take out this guy. And I feel like they're almost spelling it out that we're going to lose Daryl at some time in this season. And they already killed off Glenn, who was such a beloved and important character. I could see them wanting to make a shock impact by getting rid of the character, the face, I would say, of Walking Dead. Because I think as much as people love Rick, people love Daryl more. And Daryl is like the face. I feel like it's the one that everyone really cares about. So I think that's what they're kind of foreshadowing right now, is that Daryl, we're going to lose him at some point. And I think also we are going to get some involvement with the kingdom, but it's going to take a lot of coercing, and it's going to take something catastrophic to make King Ezekiel join. So those are all my thoughts on last night's episode. It was so good, so much better than the whole of the first half of the season, and I'm glad that they stepped it up, because honestly, my thought was I wasn't going to stick around if this episode wasn't that good, and it was phenomenal, and I was so happy with it. So I'm super excited to see what happens in the rest of the season. They got me back in. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any opinions on this episode, make sure to leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!